welcome to Shop Talk with Martin Huber Knives. Oh, this is probably the worst intro I've ever done. Hello and welcome to this episode of Shop Talk. Today is about my kitchen knife collection. We are starting with one of my favorite knife type and customers out there love most, the Gyutos. Starting with one of my favorites and one of my more expensive knives in my collection, my Benjamin Cayman Gyutos. This is a 125/19 high carbon, high tungsten steel with a denty finish that I told him to do because this was a custom piece that he made for me. The handle is out of blackened titanium bolsters, front and end cap, and a beautiful maple burl that I sent him to do on this handle. This is actually one of my most favorite knives that I've got because everybody who knows Benjamin Cayman, he's a guy from Austria. His knives are really top of the line knives. I like how it handles, I like how it feels, I like how it looks. This one is one of my top knives. It already developed a nice little blue patina. Next on my first Western knife maker knife that I've ever bought, Brian Raquin from France. Gyutos, more of a laser kind of style. It has stone polished bevels, a burnt oak handle. It's pretty simple knife, a lot of forging scale. What I personally really like is maker's mark in the top corner of the K-tip, close to the heart because it was my very first custom knife that I've ever got. Next up, my ex-employee Simon Kriechbaum, aka Storchenklinge. He worked for me 3 years, so I pretty much taught him a lot of his knife making. But he developed a pretty cool, unique style, a mixture of classic Japanese with Western bits and parts in the knife itself. We have Apex Ultra Core wrought iron cladding with stone polished bevels here. The handle is made from blackened or fire burned stainless and a Jew handle. It's a wire handle, so like an octagonal handle. It's pretty nice Gyutos, really like it. It feels great in his hand. I sadly didn't cut with it yet because I just got it a few weeks ago. But it feels so nice in hand. It's looking forward to use this one. Next up is a knife that is pretty sure one of the chunkiest bad boys and pretty sure the chunkiest Gyutos that I've owned. Smedja Aspen, Patrick from Sweden. It's a really thick knife. Like this Gyutos is massive. That's an ironwood. I've traded this knife for one of mine. Polished bevels, a lot of forging scale and a thick taper, like a really beefy blade. It's heavy. Didn't use it that much yet. I had a few test cuts. It's really going through material, like it's chopping like an axe through potatoes and stuff, so it's pretty cool. I like it. Next up is my newest knife in my collection. It's a collaboration of hardened knives, Timor from the Netherlands and Hopwood knives from Germany. They did a collab on this specific Gyutos. It's a monosteel blade with a pretty nice going down taper, thick in the back, thin on the tip, wrought iron bolster and a beautiful burly wood. I sadly forgot the name of it. And pretty light, pretty nimble. It's maybe a little too light. I got this yesterday in the mail, so I can't really tell anything about it except for looks. Fit and finish is pretty nice. Then one of my most precious knives in my collection, the first generation birch and bevel wrought iron Sanmai. This is a Apex Ultra Core with a wrought iron cladding, and as some of you know, I am actually working with birch and bevel. I am the guy who's doing all their handles for the knives. This was before I started working for birch and bevel. This is the old gen birch and bevel handle. So we have a brass front piece with birch bark and ancient oak on the handle. But it's pretty cool to start with number 2 of the birch and bevel collection. This is when I started working with birch and bevel. This is the carbon Gyutos. On this one I made the handle. As you can see in comparison, the two different styles of handles. We have the more lighter. Here we use bog oak, contrasted job on the birch bark itself. The wrought iron Sanmai is made by Tobias Hangler, forged into a blade by Jonas Johnson, aka Isas Median in Sweden, Tobias Hangler from Austria. You should have already seen the video that I made with Tobias. The carbon Gyutos are forged by Fredrik Sporre, also from Sweden, from 12419. My most favorite high carbon, high tungsten steel. These are my two birch and bevels I personally own. Next up was my first Helkin forge, Joseph Shroom, knife maker from the US. I like his knives since I started knife making. It's the first knife that I bought made by him. I got it second hand from a guy in Austria. This is one of my daily uses in the home kitchen. 125 SC high carbon core with wrought iron cladding. Also hand polished bevels. Next up in the list, and my last Japanese style Gyuto, is Simon Mallet. He's a French knife maker living in England. A beautiful combination of wrought iron and a nice hard core. I sadly can't remember exactly what core it is. It's a beautiful little knife. It's the smallest one, but it got the thickest taper. So if you can see right here, it's 8 millimeters in the back and slimming down to a needle tip. So it's a really, really nice knife. You might think this one is heavy as freak because, well, it's thick in the back, but actually perfect balance, perfect feel. It's not that heavy, and I really, really like that one. Next on the list, Gyutos. Again, yeah, I have way too many Gyutos. Starting these Gyutos with my Muteki stainless clad senmai, a mixture of Gyuto and the chef knife. I bought this one secondhand from a friend of mine. Sirikote handle with brass pins, full tang, no taper, a little taper on the handle, but the blade itself is pretty straightforward. Muteki is a company by Kata Cutlery in the US. It's his apprentices do their work under Muteki. Next up, another Smedja Aspen. This one I got from him as a trade, and he's getting a trade-off knife for this. This is a beautiful monosteel blade with, I think, burnt oak Western style faceted handle. Really nice size, no taper at all. This is a more production style kind of knife, more of a rustic style of knife. I kind of like the rustic style, so everything good to me. The next knife is one of the freakiest knives I own, if not the freakiest knife. Knife from an Austrian knife maker, Fabian Schell, aka Schellfire Art. One of the few stainless knives that I have. The handle is made from a crazy blue, I think it's Yuma material with a lot of weird little facets. It just screams like unique. With a stainless steel blade, I sadly can't remember the steel at all. Very light. Even if the handle looks chunky as hell, it is still kind of nice to grip, no matter if you do the old man style or a decent pinch grip. And the last is a chef knife, also again made by Simon Kriechbaum. He made this one a few years ago when he was still working for me. It was a kind of bet that we had. We made two knives for a customer of ours, and whichever knives he decides for the person who made the knife gets the knife from the other guy. So I won that, and so I got his knife. Win for me, I'd say. This is a stainless senmai, if I remember correctly. This is silver steel with stainless cladding. Pretty awesome, two-colored desert ironwood with stainless steel pins. I used that knife a lot. That's why it's in a pretty decent condition. I leave this one in the shop to fix up because, yeah, I bent the tip a little bit and it needs a resharpen. So next up on the list, the knives that I collect the least. Doesn't mean that I don't like them as much, just like Gyutos and rectangles way more. Starting with Brigason blades, also a knife maker from Sweden. Beautiful bunker, concave ground edge. The forging scale looks like it's polished or sandblasted because it's got this matte gray finish. A nice octagonal handle on it. It's a really lightweight knife. There's a small little taper on the blade, but not really that kind of big one to it. Like to use it. Next up, a present that I got from a friend of mine, Fredrik Sporre from Sweden. He's also one of the guys working for Birch & Bevel. We have this beautiful Bunker Santoku with a beautiful burly wood and a brass front bolster and the G10, I think, inlay. Octagonal style, 124/19 mono steel. Really, really lovely blade. Slight little taper to it. Next up, one of the blades that I thought about if I should really show them to you or not, but I thought like, hey, yeah, I should. This one is from a really, really, really weird dude. Like, that guy, he's a special personality, I would say. It's a stainless steel N690 full tang stock removal sentoku with a hybrid wood handle. It's maple and black resin. The maker of this knife said it was his first stainless steel knife he ever made, and for that it's pretty okay. I was that maker, I made it. This blade is from beginning of 2017, when I just got self-employed. It's not the most beautiful knife, but it was my first stainless steel knife ever, so I was pretty proud of it. I think we can see some difference in style and precision from this knife 6-7 years ago to now. Next up was a birthday present I got from a good friend of mine, Sid Knives from Austria. It's a twist Damascus petty with a pretty nice pattern, beautiful poplar burl. My most favorite petty of all of those, and thanks again for the present. And the last of the petties, my Louis Emmert petty with stone polished bevels and a nice walnut handle. Rough texture on the forge scale, what I really like. And a special guest in this category, because I can't do a whole category for this own, the Frederick Spore MCX breadsword. It's a 300mm breadsword with a huge ass handle. Ancient oak with brass, nice forged texture, nice sharp teeth. This is the Bread Slayer 3000. And now we're starting to get in my favorite kind of knife style, rectangles. Because rectangles are the freaking coolest knives out there. Because I say so. That's why. Hashtag rectangle lover in the chat for all you rectangle lovers. Starting off with Polish knife maker Leszek. He made me this beautiful integral, as I call it, silver line steel. It's a Gomai with a nickel liner in between. It's 26C3 steel on the core. I don't know what cladding he used. And a rough texture integral bolster that I really, really like. Next up, pretty much my most favorite knife that I own right now. The Carol Karris Bunker Nakiri Cleaver, what, I don't know. For me it's more an Akiri. He says it's a bunker, so I refer to it as an Akiri. The texture on the forge scale, beautiful mild steel clad Senmai. His textured bolster made from copper with this beautiful textured and wildly faceted handle. This thing is a beauty. It looks so freaking weird, like you can't hold that handle properly, but it feels so nice in hand. When you pinch grip it, it's so easy to use. The grind he has on it is a mixture of a little workhorsey, but still a little lasery. So this is pretty sure one of the last knives that I will ever give away, if I have to. Next up, also one of my favorite rectangles, the Oliver Mertens Nakiri. I wrote him that I want a Nakiri for him. He sent me a picture of this knife and he said, hey, I'm gonna sell it, do you want it? And I said, yeah. Pack it in, send it to me, I'll take it. There's no weight to it, a nice taper, even if it's super thin, it got a nice taper. It already built up on the monosteel, a beautiful patina, a museum fit, G10 front and some beautiful burl in the back handle, octagonal. This Nakiri is just a slicing little baby. And again, a knife from a maker that's pretty weird and had an existential crisis when he made this one, I don't know. It's a mixture of a Nakiri and a slicey baby, because it's not as tall as a Nakiri should be and as longer as a Nakiri should be, but Martin Hoover Knives 2018, I think. But it's a Senmai. It's a Senmai with a Damascus cladding and stabilized bead. I really liked it. It has a nice thin flat grind. Back in the days, pretty much the best knife that I had in my kitchen. But stop, before we come to my most favorite knives of all, the Cleavers, a small little ADD break. You wonder how I could afford all these knives. It's pretty easy to answer. Thanks to the sponsor of this video, I could afford all these knives. A sponsor of this video is my bank account. Thanks to my bank account, I can actually buy all these knives, pay my employees, and it's an easy app that you can also support. So if you want to support my bank account, just go down in the description. There's a link to my PayPal and you can send me money. Of course, it was just a joke, so don't send me money. But if you send me money, appreciate it. The ripple is on you. And when you're already down there, you could go like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. You have subscribed, have you? And now, finally, let's go to the Cleavers. First off is the newest addition to the Cleaver game, Metal Monkey Knives. He's a German living in Australia. It's one of my smaller cleavers, still a very nice. It's the only integral cleaver that I own. And a beautiful bolster. It's a Gomai construction, a wonderful handle, nice curly line of the nickel from the Gomai. Next off, one of my favorite French people, Mr. Adonis. This is actually Adonis's second cleaver ever. So this is a beautiful Apex Ultra mono steel cleaver with a nice curly, I think it's white ebony, and a nice inlay. Beautiful combination with his logo tag on the handle, classic Adonis style. Small little front bolster. I think this is black stainless. I'm not sure. One of the biggest cleavers I had. Next up, not handmade knives from England. Burnt oil finish, copper front bolster and a nice Cerakote handle. It's a beautiful thing. It's stock removal as far as I know. It's a really nice cleaver, no taper in there. Pretty good weight for that size. So not very heavy, but still heavy enough for nice easy chopping. Next up in the lineup is one of my newest and most precious, to be honest, from Michael of Kovares knives, Polish knife maker, and this thing is just, it screams use me from a mile away. A beautiful stainless drop senmai with the nicest alloy bending in the core that any of my knives has. Aluminum front bolster with a nice black, I think micarta handle. This thing is such a pleaser to use. I really like it. I use it a lot. The next one, Marion Forge from Czech Republic. This big boy is one of the biggest, if not the biggest cleaver I personally own right now. He does exceptional work. I really like this one. It's huge, but still not very heavy. It's a senmai construction, I think mild steel cladding and a nice carbon steel core. Hand polished bevels and a nice burly wood on the handle itself. Beautiful piece of flat steel. Next up, my chunkiest cleaver of them all, made by Lars, a Swedish knife maker. This one was a trade-off. I made him a beautiful Santoku. He made me this beautiful thick boy. This is rough aesthetics. It's a rough ground blade with rough polished flats, a beautiful mesa birch handle with, I think, buffalo horn in front. Just a big chopper. So everybody, this is my collection. I hope you like what you see. I know it's a lot of talk and not that much show. It's called Shop Talk. What did you expect? Me forging? So thank you everybody for watching this video. Comment down below which one was your favorite knife that I have in my collection. So thank you for watching this video, and I see you guys in the next episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe.